Okay, I have to say something because you have literally been staring at that calculator for like 10 minutes now. You look completely defeated. What is going on over there?
I mean, I am devastated right now.
Yeah.
It is honestly not even funny. I just did the math, like actual cold, hard math on my retirement plan, and it is bleak, very bleak.
Oh no, how bleak are we talking? Are we skipping vacations this year or are we eating ramen until we're 80?
Oh, you know how society is always dangling that whole millionaire milestone in front of us? Like it's the ultimate finish line.
Oh yeah, the classic American dream. Just save your way to $1 million.
Right. Well, I was looking at the numbers from the book we're discussing today. And if you take an average engineer earning, say, $80,000 a year, and they are incredibly diligent, like they consistently save 10% of their earnings every single month, which is the golden rule everyone always preaches.
Which, I mean, feels nearly impossible to do anyway with inflation right now, but let's just assume they manage it.
Exactly. Well, I just realized that at my current savings rate, it'll take me 150 years to become a millionaire.
Wait, what?
Yeah. The math in the book actually clocks the average engineer at exactly 156 years to save their way to $1 million.
156 years. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so unless I figure out how to live to be 200, I am in big trouble. And if you're an average teacher, the math says 217 years.
Wow.
And if you're a bartender, you are looking at over 600 years just to save your way to wealth. So yeah, staring at my own savings rate right now, I'm pretty sure I'm on the 150-year plan.
Oh my gosh. Well, on that incredibly uplifting note, welcome back to Bricknomics. I'm Sarah, and today we're getting into Rich Dad, Poor Dad, the book that basically calls your house a giant money pit.
It really does. And, you know, reading it completely shatters this illusion that most of us are willingly living under. We are all blindly marching on this century-long savings plan without even questioning the mechanics of it.
And that is exactly our mission for this deep dive. We really want to unpack why this traditional financial advice, go to school, get a safe job, save their pennies, why that is mathematically designed to keep people trapped.
It's a total trap.
It is. And more importantly, we need to figure out how to actually measure wealth. Because relying on a basic savings account is clearly fundamentally broken.
Completely broken. And looking at that terrifying 156-year timeline just makes you realize how flawed our standard definition of wealth actually is.
Right, because we just look at our bank accounts.
Exactly. We always measure wealth by looking at the dollar amount. But the book introduces this totally radical definition. Wealth isn't a dollar amount at all. Wealth is measured in time.
Time. Okay, so instead of looking at my bank balance, I should be looking at the calendar. How does that actually work in practice?
The mechanism is pretty straightforward. It's basically asking, if you lost your job tomorrow, how many days or months or years could you survive while maintaining your exact current standard of living?
Oh, wow. That is a completely different way to look at it.
Right. That time frame is your actual wealth. They use this wild example in the book. If Elon Musk decided to just permanently stop working tomorrow, and he spent the average American salary, which, hovers around $56,000 a year, he could survive for over 3.2 million years.
3.2 million years. Okay, so he's financially secure until the sun burns out?
Basically, yeah.
But for the rest of us, that number is probably measured in weeks, maybe a few months if we're incredibly lucky. And the reason our time wealth is so dangerously low is because of what the book calls the rat race.
Yeah, the rat race. And reading this section actually triggered a massive realization for me. I realized I am stuck in this psychological loop.
What do you mean?
It's like I'm running on a treadmill that is powered entirely by two emotions, fear and greed.
Oh, that is the ultimate lifestyle creep. The goalpost completely moves the second your direct deposit clears.
That is the perfect way to describe it. Because for me, the fear of not having enough money to pay my rent or buy groceries, that physical anxiety is what gets me out of bed and into the office every morning.
Yep. The fear of going broke.
Right. I work hard simply because I'm terrified of that.
Yeah.
But the literal second that paycheck hits my bank account, the fear vanishes.
And then the greed kicks in.
Exactly. Greed kicks in.
Yeah.
I suddenly think, hey, I survived another month. I deserve a nicer apartment. Or I start browsing for a new smartwatch I don't need. My increased earnings just constantly lead to increased spending.
So your baseline expenses go up, which means your fear threshold goes up. You need more money just to maintain the new normal.
Yeah, it's a vicious cycle.
So you work harder, you beg for a promotion, and the moment you get it, you immediately upgrade your car. You're just spinning the wheel faster, but you aren't actually moving forward.
It's an exhausting trap. And it brings up this incredible contrast the book makes between the two fathers, the highly educated poor dad and the high school dropout rich dad.
Right, because what we're describing with the rat race, that is purely a mindset issue.
Exactly. Mindset is everything.
And that mindset literally dictates how your brain processes problems. The highly educated dad in the book, who had a wall full of degrees but always struggled financially, whenever he faced something expensive, he would just say, "I can't afford that."
Which is the default response for like 99% of the population.
Yeah, we all do it. But the book points out the biological mechanism behind that phrase. Saying, "I can't afford that," literally shuts down your brain.
It really does.
It stops the cognitive thinking process completely. You just accept defeat and move on. But the wealthy dad forbade his kids from ever uttering those words.
Yep, he was totally banned in his house.
Instead, he forced them to ask, "How can I afford that?"
Because phrasing it as a question forces the brain to start working.
Yeah.
It opens up possibilities and turns a solid brick wall into a puzzle that can be solved.
It shifts you from being a passive victim of your bank account to an active problem solver. And the wealthy dad had this quote that just stuck with me. He said, "Broke is temporary, but poor is eternal."
Oh, I love that quote.
Right. Broke is just a current state of your wallet, but poor is the deep-seated belief that you can't change it.
So if fixing that belief is the first step, the second step is completely changing who we are actually working for.
Yeah.
So the poor and the middle class work for money,
Right.
but the wealthy, they figure out how to have money work for them.
And the book illustrates this with such a great story about two 9-year-old boys. Do you remember this part?
Oh yeah, the convenience store job.
Yes. So they want to learn how to make money, so the wealthy dad hires them to work in one of his convenience stores. But he pays them a complete poverty wage, 10 cents a week.
Which, I mean, even decades ago was basically nothing.
Nothing at all. So these kids are dusting and stocking shelves, working their tails off for a dime. Naturally, they get frustrated, they feel exploited, and they want to quit.
Which is human nature. When we feel underpaid in the real world, we demand a raise, or we look for another job with a slightly bigger paycheck.
Exactly. We constantly cling to this illusion of job security. But the wealthy dad does the exact opposite of giving them a raise. He cuts their pay from 10 cents to $0.
He literally forces them to work for free, which sounds insane.
It sounds so mean. But the psychology behind this move is fascinating. By taking away the paycheck entirely, he removed the crutch.
Right, he forced their brains to stop looking at their hourly labor as the sole source of income.
Because when you're hyper-fixated on a paycheck, you have these massive blinders on. The moment those blinders came off because they weren't getting paid, the boys noticed that the store manager was cutting the covers off old comic books and throwing them away.
Oh, the comic book library. I love this part.
So they asked the distributor if they could keep the discarded comics, took them down to a basement, and started their own comic book library. They charged the neighborhood kids 10 cents for entry to read as many as they wanted.
And the most brilliant part. They hired a younger sister for $1 a week to run the whole operation.
They outsourced their labor at 9 years old.
It's amazing.
And suddenly, they are passively earning $9.50 a week without even needing to be physically present in the basement. They officially stopped working for money and built a system where the money was working for them.
You know, speaking of money and working hard, I actually have a question for you.
Oh no, I know that tone of voice. What is it?
Why did the man put all of his money into the freezer?
Ugh, please don't do this to me. Why?
Because he wanted some cold, hard cash.
That was physical pain. I felt that in my bones. We need to move on immediately before we lose every single listener.
I had to do it. It builds character.
Well, to recover from that, let's talk about the real reason why relying on a standard paycheck is so dangerous. Because it's not just about the limited hours in a day.
No, it goes way deeper than that.
It's about how the entire system is legally stacked against the employee. I had this massive realization reading this section.
Oh yeah, lay it on me.
I realized I've been working from January to March every year just to pay the tax man. I'm basically an unpaid intern for the government.
An unpaid intern for the government. That is devastatingly accurate.
It is. The book breaks down the brutal math of it. For a regular W-2 employee, every single dollar you earn from January 1st all the way to mid-March goes straight to taxes.
It's wild.
If you compound that over a standard 40-year career, that is almost 6 whole years of your life that you are working just to fund the government.
And the mechanism behind why this happens is what really blew my mind. The tax code is legally structured to penalize the W-2 employee.
Yep, it's not an accident.
Exactly. When you have a traditional job, you earn your salary, the government takes their cut first before you even see the money, and then you have to try and live on whatever's left over.
But a business operates in complete reverse.
Yeah.
A business earns money, spends everything it possibly can on expenses like cars, travel, meals, and then gets taxed only on whatever tiny sliver of profit is left over.
The wealthy use corporate structures to spend pre-tax dollars.
We literally have 3 bosses before we even pay ourselves. We work for the company to make the shareholders rich, we work for the government through our taxes, and we work for the bank by paying off our mortgages and credit card interest.
Which means the only way out is understanding the rules of the game. And that starts with the true definition of an asset versus a liability. Because the middle class is completely confused about this.
Yeah, they really are.
Forget all the complicated academic accounting definitions. The book simplifies it brilliantly. An asset is simply something that puts money in your pocket. A liability is something that takes money out of your pocket. That's it.
We all know the technical textbook definition of an asset, but the book exposes our massive emotional blind spots. We willingly classify things as assets just because society tells us to, even when the math proves otherwise.
Which brings me to the mandated realization I had to confront while reading this.
Oh boy, here we go.
I know. I always thought my house was my biggest asset, but it's actually just a hole in the ground I throw money into every month.
Wait, isn't a house an asset if the value goes up? Literally everyone tells you to buy a house. Like, it's the American dream.
I know, it feels like absolute financial heresy to suggest your house isn't an asset. But apply the core rule. Does your primary residence put money in your pocket every month, or does it take money out?
I mean, you have to pay the mortgage every month.
Right, you are tied to a 30-year loan. Money is leaving your pocket. Plus, you have to pay property taxes, and those rates are completely out of your control. The government can just reassess your neighborhood and hike them up.
Yeah, that's true. It's almost like buying a pet elephant.
A pet elephant.
Hear me out. Sure, having an elephant looks incredibly impressive to your neighbors, but it eats 100 pounds of food a day, requires constant veterinary care, and you're the one out there shoveling up after it every morning.
That is the perfect analogy. You are just constantly shoveling cash to keep the elephant alive. You've got the broken water heater, the leaky roof, the lawn care. It is a constant drain on your cash flow.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And sure, the property value might appreciate at maybe 3 or 4% a year on average. But the real cost of that house isn't the mortgage or the maintenance. It's the lost opportunity.
Oh, break down the lost opportunity part, because that is the silent killer that nobody talks about.
So, if all your available capital is tied up in a massive down payment, and all your monthly cash flow is going to the bank to pay for that massive house, that is money that is not being invested in things that actually generate income.
Right.
You are missing out on decades of compounding interest in the stock market, or missing out on buying real estate that actually produces tenant rent. The compounding growth of a true asset portfolio completely dwarfs the slow appreciation of a primary residence.
So you end up house poor. You look incredibly wealthy on paper because your house is worth a lot, but your daily cash flow is bleeding you dry.
Exactly. For the middle class, a home is their biggest investment. For the wealthy, a primary home is just an expense. Real assets are things like an apartment building where the tenants pay rent that completely covers your loan repayments. Or stocks, bonds, notes.
Intellectual property royalties like music or patents.
Yeah.
Basically businesses that do not require your physical presence to operate.
Yes.
Which leads us to the next big hurdle. I love the idea of generating cash without labor, but I have to play devil's advocate here again.
Go for it.
I mean, how is a normal person supposed to just start a business while working 40 hours a week? We just spent the first half of this deep dive talking about how exhausted everyone is from the rat race.
It's true. Everyone is burned out.
You can't just magically spin up a real estate empire or write a hit song on a Tuesday night after commuting for an hour.
And that is a completely valid pushback. People hear the phrase, start a business, and they think they need to quit their secure job and invent the next iPhone in their garage.
Right, which is terrifying.
But the book makes a really crucial distinction between your profession and your business.
Okay, what's the difference?
Well, the profession pays the bills, while the business builds the wealth.
Oh, I see.
Exactly. Your profession is your day job. It focuses entirely on your income statement. The guy in the book, his first real professional job wasn't glamorous. He was a photocopier salesman for Xerox.
Wait, a photocopier salesman, like a regular W-2 job?
Yeah, that was his profession. He showed up, worked his hours, and got a salary.
And most people would stop right there. They would take that Xerox salary, buy the pet elephant house, upgrade their car on credit, and just expand their column of liabilities. They spend their whole lives building the Xerox Corporation's business instead of their own.
But he didn't do that. He kept his living expenses aggressively low. He drove a cheap car and lived modestly, and he used his wages from his profession at Xerox to quietly buy small income-generating apartments on the side.
So that was him minding his own business.
Exactly. His business was his asset column. He didn't quit Xerox to become a full-time real estate mogul on day one. He used his profession to fund his business.
Until the passive income from his assets actually surpassed his salary from his profession. That's the crossover point where you actually buy your freedom. Once his assets paid for his life, he could finally leave Xerox and just look after his investments full-time.
It completely changes how you view the purpose of your paycheck.
Which leads to my absolute favorite mental model from the whole book. Treating every single dollar like a tiny employee. We were talking about this earlier.
Oh yes, the tiny employee concept is brilliant.
When you buy a liability like a fancy coffee or a new TV, you are basically firing that dollar. You are sending it away and it is gone forever.
But when a dollar goes into your asset column, you lock the door behind it.
You become a ruthless boss. You never let it out.
Yeah.
You put that dollar to work. And the incredible beauty of money is that it doesn't need to sleep, it doesn't take sick days, it doesn't unionize, and it works 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
And those tiny dollar employees go out into the market and recruit more employees through interest and dividends to come back and work for you too. They multiply.
And that is how you eventually buy the luxuries. You don't buy a new sports car with your own Xerox paycheck. You let your army of dollar employees work around the clock to generate the cash flow, and they buy the boss the new sports car.
It flips the entire script on how society teaches us to consume. Life really isn't about how much money you make. It's about how much money you keep and how hard you force that money to work for you over generations.
Really is.
Because following the traditional path just gets you what the masses get stuck in a perpetual cycle of fear, greed, and crushing taxes.
But if you can just shift your focus away from chasing a slightly bigger salary and start focusing on building a bigger asset column, you actually have a real shot at escaping the rat race.
It's all about building that financial literacy.
Okay, we have covered a massive amount of ground today. We've talked about time wealth, the trap of the rat race, the illusion of the house as an asset, and building an army of dollar employees. And I want to leave you with a completely different angle to think about today.
Let's hear it.
If your dollars are your employees, are you treating them like a benevolent boss who just lets them sleep lazily in a low-interest savings account? Or are you a ruthless CEO forcing them to multiply in the market? Go look at your bank account today and honestly ask yourself, who is really in charge of your financial life?
Love that. Time to wake those dollars up and put them to work.
And circling back to where we started this entire deep dive, how many days could you survive if you stopped working today? That's your real wealth number. Tell us yours in the comments if you're brave enough.